When he got home, he remembered Mary, his mother, had promised to tell Jesus the story of when he was born. Mary said, "One day I was cleaning house. Our angel came to me and said, 'Go to Bethlehem. There you will have a baby. His name is to be Jesus.'" So we went to Bethlehem. When we got there that night, we were very tired. The inn was full, but the innkeeper was nice, so he let us go in the stable for the night, and there Jesus was born. Angels sang and told the shepherds to go to the stable where Jesus was born. There was a big star in the sky, and the wise men came and gave Jesus something made of gold. Then the angels came again, and here we are. That night, Jesus and Mary saw a star almost as big as the one in Bethlehem for the first Christmas. End of paragraph. End of feeble fledgling of a story. And the whole experience would remain as forgettable as this story, were it not for a small miracle that occurred as I wrote. Goofy as my story was, as soon as I started telling it, I vanished. The classroom did too, so did the other kids, and that vanishing. Lost in the doing, ego gone. What happens when this happens? Who are we when we're gone? This mystery has shown at the heart of my love for fiction writing from the moment Jesus ran to his house and ate his breakfast. Flannery O'Connor said, "No art is sunk in the self, but rather in art the self becomes self-forgetful in order to meet the demands of the thing seen and the thing being made." W.H. Auden said, "To pray is to pay attention to something or someone other than oneself. Whenever a man so concentrates his attention on a landscape, a poem, a geometrical problem, an idol, or the one true God, that he completely forgets his own ego and desires, he is praying." Though de Borja fell to ruin at the end, it haunted me that once I sank into the work, a half-embodied desert wilderness, an approximation of the boy Jesus, took my classmates and classrooms' places. I loved both halves of this magic, my own disappearance, the deserts and boys' appearances. Loved it so much I suspected it might be related to the loss Jesus refers to when he says, "He that loseth his life shall save it." Near as I can tell, the moment I disappeared that morning is the moment O'Connor's art and Auden's prayer were destined to become my life's work. Thanks. So I've written this book called God Laughs and Plays. That's a quote from one of my heroes, Meister Eckhart, a medieval mystic. I think a saint, even though he was, his teachings were thrown out of he was actually taken up before the Inquisition during his life and just talked circles around him with his loving, joyful, good-hearted brilliance. But after he died, about 4 years after he died, there was a papal bull condemning his teachings. But it was Eckhart who said, "God laughs and plays." And to drive into Bend and see that on the marquee was pretty cool. There's a pretty famous contemporary theologian, Eugene Peterson, who lives in Montana, not far from me, who's translated most of the Bible into contemporary English in a version titled The Message. I'd like those who think me radical or something to know how conservative I can be. Regarding the Bible, I personally love my old King James Version, which used to belong to my older brother. So stick in the muddedly that Eugene Peterson's hip New English version sounds to my ears like an Ebonics rendition of Shakespeare. I've met and very much like Mr. Peterson, though, and I trust his judgment on the need for the message. I even own a signed copy, at which I sometimes gawk in incredulity before rushing back to my trusty King James. But what's more, the message is respected in, and Eugene Peterson are both respected in evangelical circles, which is more than I can say for me. That's why I wanted to begin by citing Eugene Peterson. The following quote is maybe an attempt at outreach to any evangelicals who imagine me as being on some sort of opposite side. Introducing his translation of the book of Amos, Eugene Peterson says, "Religion is the most dangerous energy source known to mankind. The moment a person or government or religion is convinced that God is either ordering or sanctioning a cause or project, anything goes. The history worldwide of religion-fueled hate, killing, and oppression is staggering. It's been my feeling that a lot of American fundamentalists who were formerly good neighbors have lost sight of this fact that Eugene Peterson undermines, and that's more or less where this new book comes from. Wonderful quote I heard last night. Anne Lamott said, "The opposite of faith is not doubt, it is certainty." Another great quote from last night. I'm not sure how this pertains, but Frida Kahlo said, "I used to drown my sorrows, but the sons of bitches have learned to swim." Amory Lovins of the Rocky Mountain Foundation has a wonderful quote for these times. He says, "In God we trust. Everyone else bring data." Also, the great French philosopher Voltaire, "If God made mankind in his own image, mankind has more than reciprocated." I just feel like whenever our God hates all the same people we do, we're in deep theological trouble. And that's where this new book came from. Being, a historic perspective on me personally, I should just come out and confess all I've ever managed to do around theology is all my life is get in trouble. So the theological hot water this book has me in is nothing new. This trouble, however, for the most part, has been a lot of fun. I've just been to, I've just done 20 gigs in 11, 12 cities, and boy, lots of ministers. This guy came up to me in Portland and handed, a Lutheran minister, handed me a sermon that he just delivered on Easter Sunday that Rachel Carson could have written. I'm not a policy guy, and I'm not a political animal, but I am a literary animal, and very much a conservationist. And I've just been disturbed by the seeming idea that the destruction of the earth that we're seeing in the last few years could in any way be some kind of, I just think we need to leave the question open, and that contributing to the destruction, in Kentucky in the last 6 years, under the new Bush-Cheney energy policy, which is one of the first things they brought in, half the streams in Kentucky have become unsafe to swim in, and you can no longer safely eat the fish. The huge emphasis on coal-fired power that's leveling East Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia is dumping mercury into the atmosphere at a rate that's, according to the EPA's own website, is killing 18,000 Americans a year, which, as you all know, is 6 times more than died in the Trade Center disaster. That's nothing against the trades, the need to answer the Trade Center problem, and it's nice that the lunatic killer Saddam Hussein is out of commission, but I don't see why that leads to the need to destroy Kentucky or East Tennessee or eastern Wyoming or eastern Montana. Eastern Montana and eastern Wyoming, the Tongue River is now running salt from all the aquifers that have been drained for the natural gas exploitation, and at water holes that birds absolutely need. Birds live in the spirit of the Gospels. They live one day from starvation or dying of thirst, and they're pulling into their old water hole now, and it's full of salt.